Hello, welcome to episode number 3 of Deconstructing Distortion. My name is Allie with Amory Speaks, and this series is for those of us who have been sort of awake and activated on their journey here, on their path, and that can appear in many different ways or many different callings, right? But I am hoping to offer some terms and phrases that those of us who aren't really new to the beginners, sort of stuff I talked about in Comprehending Consciousness, and have spent time on perhaps even that kind of stuff in their own place. Not to say you have to watch those and spend time on my videos, but that you have, done it for yourself, which is more important anyway, right? For those of us who've kind of kicked around ground already in the New Age spiritual realm, in the metaphysical kind of teachings and all of this stuff that's we're seeing such a revival of lately, right? I wanted to create this new series that's deeper and that takes things much deeper to sort of the level that where I am working at, and hope to share with others who might be understanding similar things. Sorry for my voice, it's very early in the morning. I'm trying to squeeze this video in before homeschooling, and it's that fall type of season. Obviously, if you're watching real time, then it's, we just had autumn equinox, and if you're not, anyways, I have a bit of detox going on. Call it what you will. I won't get into that and sidetracked. But excuse my voice. Forgive me if I'm drinking some coffee and also need to clear my throat sometimes. And this light is just too much. Back to the topic at hand, right? Thank you so much for joining me and bearing with me. Episode number 3 is on the apocalypse, the end of days phrase, kind of. And this episode 3 is going to really bother me with my light. I think we're going to have to just keep it as transparent as we can here with this episode, because I don't even have the time to try to start it over. So candidly, thank you for bearing with me. Hope it's not as distracting to you as it is to me. Episode number 3 is going to break the mold with sort of my general offering here for deconstructing distortion as well. It's great because it's following suit with numerology as well, and I didn't even intend to do that. It's so awesome to be able to observe and see organic sort of seeking and unfolding, really just happening. Or the potentials for you to recognize that they're there and then to follow the vein of them really is what I'm learning most now. And to recognize that, right, 3 in itself is disruptive sometimes, but it's creative, it's happy, it's in a childlike essence, energetics. It's where innovation becomes exponential. It becomes the square becomes the cube. I'm trying to think of the right word to say, like a third, not a squaring, but a cubing. And it's the initial beautiful ideas, but they're birthing, 3 of them at a time. And it's so diverse that sometimes they're surprising to the things that we thought we already knew about it with the 2, right? Because we have the initial idea, then we get 2, which is, this is this, but that's that, the total opposite. And we kind of work at what is what and what's the general opposite of it to really define the general scope, right? Clear ground around the whole of what kind of the one is. But once we've done that for a little bit, it allows the 3 to birth in. And that can kind of be whatever, because it can be totally unexpected, because it comes from the meeting of the 2. And sorry, but not to get too caught up in a general teaching of numerology or anything metaphysical like that. Sequential growth is what I like to call it. But this episode is breaking the mold from my others. And as saying that, it's sort of prerequisite that you've seen the second episode. because the second episode was on the second coming, and it's sort of the other side of the duality that I'm talking about here in the third video with the apocalypse, end of times. They are two sides of one coin. They're the doorway threshold, of the great cycle. One is the sun rising and one is the sun setting. And yet they're one sun going around a central point. It's the point of the observer set and setting of where you've been chosen to watch from or experience life from, experience the sun's movement from, that creates which one you're involved in. And I've been talking a lot on my channel in general kind of about this, and I will continue to. I think it's a great time to start really breaking the ice on the top layer and getting beginners and us long timers together again and really exchanging good information, understanding we're all together on the same thing, we're all swimming here, and or whatever, and there's much more that we can learn from each other. Teach, learn, instead of thinking that it's like this and we're trying to be very hierarchy of information and sharing, and that's not fair. We're all sovereign beings, and if you've been down here for a while diving deep, you should really be grounded and centralized in that practice of sovereignty and respecting other as a sovereign being, and learning that reflective empathetic process that is sometimes hard to talk about, right? It causes a stagnation. It causes all types of things that cause blockages here from us trying to translate out what's in here as truthfully as we can. But the point in the choices that we're at hand, the power of choice that we have as man here, human beings of creator consciousness, fractals of God's source, is the power of choice and creation and to do, right? Action. Love in action is what we are. Latent love coming together. It's a metamorphosis of energies and intentions being able to manifest things in solid form. And I'm getting totally off topic of, well, not really. It's all one topic, right? But the point is that in honoring these things, knowing these and working through these great truths for quite a while, we have, and I have, and those of us who've been doing this, we have stronger muscles sort of to go help those who are sort of just learning the doggy paddle up there. And at the same time, by doing this and talking about these things, we're refining our own doggy paddle, right? Now, this specific one that I'm on right now that has to do with the split and the sort of new beginnings, second coming, the awakening of Christ or the return of Christ, however you'd like to look at that, and envision that sort of playing out with that world, or the end of days, apocalyptic, the fall of Babylon, the world is over kind of thing, the judgment day, the return of ultimate judgment to those who will be sort of the harvest. I'm not great with biblical terms either, and so maybe I'm missing, I forget some of them. But anyways, across all spectrums of traditions and understandings and different choice vocabulary, what we could pinpoint different timelines to, it's clear, like I started off this video with, that we're in that time. But that time is always relevant, is always present for each one of us to be involved in our own ways. However, what's happened now, and what is happening now, is that a great percentage of us are doing that. And so in the middle ground, the new median is in a different place now, and you can't hide it anymore. They've been trying to hide it for a long time, and to keep everybody's focus only on the apocalyptic themes, and to think that that's the only thing happening, and that happens, and then after there's a real event, and then starts the new start, and then, and that is a tactic, unfortunately, of the dark to control the light from building into understanding that they're both happening at the same time, because time is not real, and everything actually sort of coexists, coincides in a potentiality field, spirit, ether, imagination, space, all of these many different layers of conscious happenings out there that I'm not going to pretend to even understand, but that I know that intention and attention affect. They wouldn't spend so much time, money, energy, and efforts to control and the cattle corral if it wasn't super powerful. Point in blank, just like other truths that we say we need to put a pin in the board here and say that's a truth, we should really own and know that that's the truth. And then that forces you to own and own your own truth. And back to the power of choice, right? And back to what this is all about, because we do have the choice as to whether we choose to focus all our attention on the apocalyptic theme, end of times, end of days, or whether we choose to focus our time and attention on the rebirth, the restart, the new beginnings that are here and available and always happening. The issue is that they are different spaces, and that they do, this is, the beautiful difficulties about understanding, about paradoxical thinking, about holding space infinitely for multiple happenings to be occurring within them. The human capacity is not really meant for that, especially third density. And we're moving up out of that as we're moving out of it, speaking from astronomy point of view, into new spaces. They're not in allowance and are for that kind of stuff really anymore. But just as our thinking is starting to allow more different, diverse kind of thinking, it's the attempt to know that they are happening at the same time, and that it's up to us to decide which ones that we're involved with, how and why. Now, this is the first layer of the distortion, is understanding that they are sort of two different happenings coinciding, and that we as creator consciousness have infinite potential power to create and build within both of those realities. We add time, light, energy, love into either one, into both. And it seems sort of at first, you get tricked into thinking it's one or the other. And I have as well, spent many times in both of them only, thinking that, being lost in one, basically, being zoomed down into just that realm and world. And when you zoom down into it, it's very easy to forget sort of the zoom button up in the control panel here with the mind's boss, right? And you get fully embodied and enlivened in the show and in the thing that's happening, because you're engulfed in it. And we forget that there's that way to get out, right? The apocalyptic end of times themes is really intense and does require more and more attention in order to keep going. And this is where sort of the trick is at, that I was saying about trying to control what's happening, and that they want you to think that there's a thing, there's an absolute time, that there will be an in-between moment that will sort of start the new beginning, and it will have ceased the end. But when you watch a sunrise, is there one point at time when you watch that the sun pops up over the horizon and then it's day? Or when you watch the sunset, is there at one point that sun like goes down and all of a sudden it's night? It doesn't work like that, right? And that's why these two things are always present and always possible. It's whether and when you choose to accept that it's dawning or it's the end of the day. And that also, it does have to do with where you're placed in the world and where your set and setting is. Something you don't really have a control over. That has a purpose to it. Like I talked about at the very start, we put a pin in it because that's the truth. It does have purpose. Can't deny it. All you could do is know that organic clock of the sun, whichever time it is for you, sort of it is, you need to recognize which way it's moving and move with it, not try to pretend that it's the other time, or that, it's not going to happen. And for a sort of a direct example, it's been night for quite a while, and night has been fertile ground for shadow and darkness to do what it does. And we see that play out. Now, 2012, they said, was a marker of the new time clock starting. But perhaps, and maybe, I'm not going to claim what time that was, but was 2012 that darkest time of the night, that kind of like 3-4 o'clock in the morning where we say is like the dark of the night before actual dawn gets started? And was that the marker of the clock? It's nowhere near sunrise. We're coming to sunrise pretty soon. And then who's to say what the return and the full brightness of sun even is, and what time of day that is? I can't judge what time of day it is, and I'm not sure. I'm following the sun for sure. I'm following sunrise as much as I can. I'm seeking the sunrise for myself. But also, I'm enjoying my sunsets, and I'm trying to understand and sit and really know, appreciate, and witness my sunsets. This is why it's an individual thing for us at each moment to choose. It's a fractalized, layered choice, because there's overall happenings and there's individual happenings. Just like you have an overall life path, and then you have every single day, right? Every single day builds the overall lifetime, but you have to do through every single day, right? Just like every single day has an overall balance at the end, that we seek a positive balance to know where you're at on that map, and to know which one whether it's a setting sun you're following or whether it's a rising sun you're following, to know your organic place and what your purpose is in each day. Did you get there? You have an overall balance at the end of your day. Did you get there or not? But that one's made up of every moment throughout your day, just like the day's made up of, hours or choice, all different moments and scenarios. So our lives and the great lives and timelines in general also work in this unbelievable, infinite exploration of potential that gets bigger as we dive in. As you become more and seek more, there's more to be sought. You really have to learn the control mechanisms and choose what you're seeking and why, because there will always be more. And this is the issue with why they've had us plastered over the apocalyptic theme. They don't want anybody to understand about new starts, new beginnings. And anybody who is, and the major players who have been and are over here for a long time singing the truth, they work very hard to shut them up and shut them down, and to reconfigure all of the screens and potentials and all of their sort of architecture on the nighttime view, and to say, oh no, it's not getting lighter, it is not getting lighter, that was the planes, that's the screens, that's a Starlink thingy flying over. But too many of us now are hooked in, too many of us know. And there's great metaphors, there's great parables, flippings of meaning here, diving of reflections that I'm mentioning that I can't even get into. But just understand that the nighttime negative shadows of the architecture built internet and all of these things as a mockery and an inverted attempt to control that which already exists in organic, that's been here the whole time. That is the regular model. They're just pretending and trying to act like they come up with it during the nighttime because the light isn't that bright or wasn't that bright. But now the light's becoming brighter, and everybody's starting to see that the whole landscape around, they're starting to see all their strings and all the things that have been holding up their fake stuff all the time, and there's nowhere to hide. And then they see all of us around who've been like, yeah, we've been saying this the whole time, like we've been telling you this is true. And now more and more people are like, yeah, no, we see that actually, yeah, it's the end of days, but it's the end of your days. It's the end of your times. Sorry, it's the end of your show, but the show must go on, bro. It's the dawn of a new day. And who's to say what is coming with that? But just to know that it's truth, and it's going to be bright and light, and there's not a lot of place to hide. So just do your own thing. Do what feels good to you. Embrace your new starts and your new places that are right there in front of you. You're already there. Everything that you need to be involved in is right in front of you. And now it's getting lighter and more clear, and people can see and sense these things right in front of them more, and have better conversations, and hear and understand body language with those in their presence more. Starting to see, oh, your in vicinity and direction actually matter. You know, we're not just bumping around in the dark, thinking and believing we're going in certain areas, or thinking and believing certain people around us are with us and for us because we've been bumping into them for a while. You know, now we're starting to say, well, why have we been doing that? And oh, look, this is, you know, the truth of things. We just want to actually get where we're going. We just want to stop with the dance around and just get to the things that feel good. You know, I have a service and a purpose within me, or I want to provide for my family, or I just want to live my life. I want to enjoy my time here. I'm here. I don't want to bumble around in the dark. I'm not here for no reason to just sit around and be set what I'm told until the end. You know, I have purpose and a sovereign right, just like I have a conscious mind to think for myself. So I don't want to just sit in the dark because it's the end of the days and you say it's the fall of everything because you ruined everything around you, you know? I kind of got off topic. Not really, but I've kind of got a little too first person into the distortions instead of talking about really the distortions. But this is the point, right? And this is something new and difficult to relay. I think I'm at 22 minutes. I want to keep these videos short, but there's one other piece of the distortion that I'd love to talk about. Perhaps I might do like a deep dive. I did those sometimes in Comprehending Consciousness. I'd put out like a episode 3A and have like a long discussion in the background about it. And perhaps I'll do that. Or, yeah. Because I don't have time to do that this morning. I was like, maybe I'll just turn that video into that, but no, this is, I mean, no, I can't do that. I have no time for that this morning. Introductory to this is that, of course, the first layer of distortion is recognizing, right, that the endings are always new beginnings, and that initial distortion is being pigeonholed into thinking that endings are endings, and that there is detriment there, that there's a risk to worth with endings. And that comes from the initial distortion, right, that we are not part of the whole one, eternal creation. That there isn't a great before and after, that everything embodied here in the now is a part of and would return to after. That's a choice. That's the first choice. That's the initial truth and promise. And so many of us struggle even with that. That's why I really would never kick this at beginners, and I would not try. I mean, we can explain and work to, like I said, come between the cracked thin layer of ice up to that apocalyptic mainstream word, which I think I did even in a Comprehension Consciousness on Christ consciousness, which is similar to this, seeking your truth and understanding about truth and lies, and what's the differences between lying to yourself and telling yourself the truth, which is basically what we're talking about here, right? Because it's conscious choice of which one, which themes you're involved in, and when and how you integrate them, and how you do the work between the two. Because how we respond and interact between these two worlds as creator consciousness really impacts the whole thing that's happening, right? the more and more of us that are in the background as it's dawn, you know, as the gradient of light is getting lighter, but it's still kind of dark, it's more crucial than ever that those of us who know it's getting lighter and know that it is dawn, that we keep singing that song and that we keep where we are, calming those around us, and with our just with our presence, not by telling people and not by it's dawn and trying to force people to know that it is, but by doing the work that we're already doing, honoring the dawn, honoring our spiritual path, honoring our truth by putting out a resonance of truth, and doing those small things within our place. And each time somebody's like, oh, I can't see, it's too dark, you know, you can say, well, I can see a bit, can't you? Don't you notice? Like, I'm not really, there's way too much intricate variability to try to even give examples there without sounding infringing. So I don't want to even go there with, that's a bit of too much distortion again. That has to really, really come from a place of unconditional truth, and it has to be only with those in your direct vicinity of immediate family members, those who you have an energetic, deep entanglement with, and a root soul choice to be here together with. At this very place in time, too. It has to have made it through the cusp of choices of the last couple of years, because there was a great weeding out that's already started to take place. Those of us who've been awake to it for quite a while, we've already noticed and been moving away from those who seek to stay in the dark. Those who've been preaching and won't get out of the fact that it's dark, it's the middle of the night. You know, we know that it's getting lighter. We understand that the darkest part of the night's already over, and we're so tired of hearing the darkest part of the night because we literally made it already through it. We're so strong. We know they are too. It's so frustrating to see people play a victim still when it's unnecessary. And in fact, it's detrimental now to the collective, and it's super detrimental to the whole of the you and those who choose to still do that. And it's hard for me to admit it because I know there must be deeper shadowed aspects of my whole inside myself who are clinging to their own shadow in that way, thinking it's their dark night of the soul still. And it's sad to remember and to honor and to have to hold space still for that. When the happiness, the good feelings, the wonderful connections, the potentials of positive building are so much greater, so much brighter and happier. Yeah, I get it. It's not full dawn. It's not noon, so you don't have to wake up yet. People, they want to sleep till noon, these ones. And it's frustrating when it's 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock in the morning and you're ready to get going and they don't want to wake up till 10. This is another metaphor and parable, but this is the great workings that we've been going through. And they're trying to say it's the middle of the night. And it's not. Their clock that they've reset all their time to, and all of, they're trying to make us and force us into believing and put us back to bed, But if you choose to, and you close your curtains, or even, God forbid, you just sit there and close your eyes, it is dark. And you can totally be fooled, and you can totally listen and bumble around in the dark with them. And oh yeah, it's the middle of the night, still it is. Oh, it'll never end. They said it's never going to be over. It never will. We better just follow this little bit of whatever. That is the doomsday, end of day timeline. And ever present and always available. Also, second line, and I'm going to close out. This has gone a half an hour. Thank you so much for staying with me through this video if you choose to. The second layer of distortion I kind of want to just dip my toe into quickly, which I will talk about more later, is that great time of the clock and the sun that I talked about before. And also the handing down of teachers, masters, teachings, things from prior time beforehand, in the great clock even. And how great distortions are being and have been struck in stone, that we have been setting our clock and our time to down here, totally different times, trying to cookie cutter our work. our spiritual practices, our honoring of following the sun by what they were doing following the setting sun back then. The sun was and might have been setting for them. It really kind of was. And maybe maybe Jesus, maybe figures from the past in these great timelines, it was a setting sun time. Or it was a darker night. It was 10, 11 o'clock at night for them. I'm not going to claim to understand the great gradients of time. And I also claim ownership to the wisdom of knowing that time fluctuates from these layers. And then those who try to claim it, sorry, but you should understand that you're probably incorrect, because there's great distortion that comes through seeking down from far away. The ripple effects are much different. And anyways, there's a lot here to chew on, and there's a lot to understand. And I'm not saying that I'm correct in saying that maybe I'm wrong, but I feel that those teachings, there's truth to them. There's always the sun. If the sun is always the sun, it's always the same truths. That no matter what time of day and where it's going, and whether it's going around to something, or it's moving this way, or it's been hijacked and it's something else, maybe it's a false thing, the truth within knows what is the truth. Because whatever's out there, whatever is in here, are reflections of before and after. They're reflections of outside the encasement, 360-degree infinite intelligent light that you can't even make it down in here. So how can you expect to understand it when it's from outside the capacity of here and now? But in honoring and knowing that, then you can try to work to understand the bits that are trickling down into, sensing them for yourself and going after those, chasing those. Because there is a true resonance to those, but they're unique to your own melodies and harmonies inside of you. And that great light inside of you and the truth inside of you becomes like an echoed, reflected marker out there. And you follow your stars. You follow the sun. The metaphors and parables that find you and seek to you and that are true to you match to you, and you follow them. And maybe they aren't correct and don't add up to everybody else's at different times and places. And that should be perfectly okay. It's the point of following the truth. Because those who are down in the dark, bumbling around, we feel sorry for you, and those of us do. I do feel sorry for you. But I have no right to tell you that's not the truth for you. You have to come to that on your own. Just like those who are really in the architecture and who are screaming about the dark and who are all invested in it have to come to their own recollections and truth that, sorry, but it's not all about that all the time. It doesn't work like that. And in fact, your truths tell you and reconfirm to you that it can't last forever, and it doesn't. And so, how long are you willing to take that for? However long they choose to. And then that shouldn't stop us who are seeking the daytime from living what we feel is true. And this is the other thing, this is the final thing I will close with, kind of like I was talking about this moment. And this will come to a moment at some point that those of us awake, and the majority of us who choose to finally wake up, and those who've slept till even 10 o'clock, but finally, like, the sun's been in the room too much that they're like, oh my gosh, I slept too late. Oh wow, everybody's already got going. Hey guys, like, those of us will be like, yeah, wake up, come on, welcome, it'll all be here. Come out in the garden, this is all going. What do you feel like doing? Like, we have all these things, plenty of room for them, and we will welcome them, and there's no problem. I'm like, oh, don't sleep so late next time. Who cares? Come on. And anyway, those of us who've been up since 6 a.m. and who are out gardening or meditating in the garden quietly, or doing whatever we've been doing, kind of doing our practices out there, we welcome all of those quietly. We're not out there like, oh, how dare you slept so long? You're burning this out here. What are you here to bring? No. You have come. Thank you. Your energy, your service, you're welcome. What do you need? Do you want to be a part of anything? What's your calling? That's the new start. That's the new energies. That's the acceptance of following the truth, because we know each one who enters, who's awoken, who comes in, who has a calling. There's a service burning in them, that they've followed light. that they've followed the sun to the morning and found us here, and so they were awoken with a purpose. And whether it's a question or a quest, they will be met by that person with the answer or the service needed. And that's also, it's the beauty of light and the day coming, and everybody awaking and being awake underneath God the same. We all have roles and purposes. And this is also how it happens at the same time, and with those who sit inside that house over there, that they built this house, and they're all going to sit inside there and sleep all day, and they have all the shades pulled and everything. I don't know. I believe there will be a time, a high noon, corrective time, perhaps, that they will come to a reckoning, and that I don't know what their reckoning will look like. I don't know whether whether high noon, it will be like such a hot day, and their air conditioning will break, and they'll be sweaty, and they would just finally need to open the windows and come out, or maybe they'll be so hot and sweaty inside there they'll break their air conditioner in such like a way that the whole place breaks down, and then the sun comes. I don't know. And I don't claim ownership to know. I don't want to be there when it happens. I'm sure collectively we'll be aware, because we're conscious beings. We're whole in one sense, But I hope to have disentangled from that by then. Completely. As I said at the start, we all have small entanglements in there. And then, that truth might be that there's a small piece of me still in there. So yeah, I'm not sure what that, but anyways, I'm sure that it will come at some point because, these truths unfold in a certain way. There's always a happening. But also we must know what that complete happenings of the high noon daytime, well, that's another happenings of it's turning into the end of the day at some point again, because it cannot always be that way, because it's a resonance. I mean, maybe there's the great before and after, and I'm not going to claim ownership to what's out there, or how many times maybe there is days. I don't know if there's repetition of cycles, or if there's one great day that God chose it to be, and then afterwards we're all at before and after together. I won't claim a thing to that either. But the timelines showcase many happenings. The teachings showcase cycles and lifetimes. And so I tend to go with something like that. But whatever it is, I'm happy. I'm blessed to be a part of it. I feel great ownership and ownership and accountability in it. I love to be a part of it and to make each moment my new starts, my new beginnings, my awakenings, partnership with Christ consciousness, and a seeking of my highest self to that great before and after, to know that I am on my good path, doing good service there. And as much as then I find sort of dark night, maybe find myself my eyes closed, I need to ask myself, well, do I need rest? Am I sleeping? Is it a true night for me and I need rest? And that's fine. That's good. Give yourself what you need. Because there's cycles over in this. It's not always day over here. You know what I mean? We're still doing the great work. It's just that we honor the truth of the time of day that it really is. We honor the other parts happening. We're not blinders on pretending that it's always night or whatever. I'm not going to go along with the whole difference of metaphors again. We're honestly seeking the truth, and that's all it is. You can add any sort of variations, you can add your tailor fittings, but the point is that you're truthfully doing whatever it is that you feel called here to do, in a way that honors that everybody else is also called here to do something, and that we're each a reflection of each other, and that we deserve a right to life to discover that. So yeah, I'm sorry I've gotten a little off topic and this went really, really long. I quite possibly could turn this into the episode A and then come up with a real true 3 that's very quick. Bear with me through these learning curves no matter what I happen to do with these episodes. Thank you for joining me so much and listening. Thank you for your time and attention, and I'll see you next time in episode 4.